Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Bandholz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. Hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the table from me, Will.
Howdy, sir.
What is up?
Good to be back.
Good to be back.
I don't think I've ever been able to say that before on anything.
Oh, really?
It's good to be back on this show. Yeah.
I'm breaking your
Something there. Yeah.
return show virginity or something.
I don't think that's a thing. That is not a thing. It's like,
It is now.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you. If you didn't read the description already, Will is with Chisos, the world's most comfortable cowboy boots.
It's true. Guilty as charged.
It's been fun. He's another Austinite, and I've gone to a lot of his events lately. I kind of want to start off with that. Like, you've been putting on these in-person events.
Since day one.
Yeah?
We launched with a launch party.
Yeah.
On day one. Yeah. These are the heart and soul of Chisos.
You're like a real DTC brand because you got like a bricks and mortar.
I do. I have a shop in South Austin.
How is it managing both a shop and online sales?
Well, we do our own fulfillment and we do it from the shop. So it's not that different. 90% of our sales are online. So we are still primarily a fulfillment house for ourselves. But the shop, to me, if I can wax poetic for a minute, is so important because we're not like some giant venture-backed brand that's going to grow and cares about dominating such and such and such and such. What we are is essentially a family-owned business that happens to be online. And so we need this gathering place, not only for people in Austin, but for people who are not here that travel to see us. We actually have a gentleman coming in this afternoon who's driving from, I think, El Paso, Texas.
Oh, wow.
So he's making this more of a trip to come out here. But a big stop to him was coming by Chisos, coming to the living room, coming and seeing what we're all about. And so we've created this spot. And so if you're in South Austin, come on by, grab a drink. They're on the house. You don't got to buy anything. We just like having people over. And
dude, and it smells so good.
It
smells so good.
I can't smell leather anymore. It takes about 3 weeks to become nose blind to it. So everybody comes in and they all say that. And I go, savor the moment.
So I think come into Austin, head down to Chisos, grab yourself some boots, smell the leather.
Smell the leather, yeah.
Then come north of the city to the barbershop, the Beard Brand Barbershop.
I love the barbershop. I was here a week ago. Yeah, every 3 weeks like clockwork. Come on down.
We hear the same thing too about like the barbershop smells and all the talcum powder in the air and stuff.
Makes perfect sense.
So perfect sense, like the sensory organs that we have.
Oh, cue the laugh track.
I assume since we last talked, things have been easy, man. Is that true?
You bastard. I take solace in the fact that if things are always going up, you really aren't a good operator. Like, you don't learn. So it takes the hard times and getting through the hard times to make you a good operator. So that's what I keep telling myself every morning.
I find that, my saying is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like, every time we have like a banner year, I think I'm the fucking bee's knees. I'm like, I know everything about entrepreneurship. We're going to be doing 100 million in 2 weeks. Yeah. And then I get humbled. I think it's, the world's way of saying, Eric, you don't know anything. And I wonder, have you ever thought about, because I've had Sean Frank on with Ridge Wallet, and they've been up and to the right, like Moise Ollie up and to the right. None of this kind of readjusting. And I know there's abilities to do that. Do you think there's any kind of self-limiting personality traits that you need to overcome to get out of your own way?
Well, the other thing I'd want to put on there is what type of business are you building, right? We have competitors in our space who are going to hit 200 million in sales this year. And I know for a fact that they currently are not profitable. They lose money with every pair that they sell, whereas we're profitable. So there's this concept here, of growth at all costs, so up and to the right, on which chart are you looking at?
Yeah, but I think of course I got to take everything at, face value, but, Ridge and Moyes, they essentially bootstrap both of those businesses, and
okay,
they were up and to the right as well. I think it's like, I don't know. I think that might be like the entrepreneur's trap as well. It's like you hear stories about Moyes, you hear stories about
look,
Ridge.
To go back to your original question, maybe I am speaking my self-limiting belief right now, and that's just great for me to examine. We'll do it right here live, but the business I did before Chisos was venture-backed, and we built at breakneck speed, and we lost money the entire way, and we sold the company, and we made the investors a lot of money, and I was able to start Chisos with it. But essentially, we had one customer, right, which was the acquiring company.
Yeah.
And so what I'm attempting to build is a community-based business that's going to be around for 30, 40 years plus. This is something, it's a legacy business that I'll hand down to my kids if they want it. So I come at it from a different perspective, which is, as long as we're still moving up and to the right in general, then, and especially on the profit side, then we're healthy. And so, there's other companies that are just in different positions. And I saw Sean's talk at the e-commerce field thing, and it was motivating. The other thing I always have to remind myself too is that, we're 2.5 years old, from developing the product. So there is a bit of what stage are you in, and everybody's path is different.
I think because I think about this too. I think I personally have some self-limiting things holding me back. I think I am financially conservative. I'm super conservative. I'm not willing to really trust. Maybe I'm distrustful to a certain degree. I see the irony in one of our core values is trust. There's usually
they're in the other. Yeah.
I'm pointing to nothingness here in the office, and Will's looking at it.
I saw it. I imagined it on the wall.
But I feel like I don't really trust Google's numbers or Facebook's numbers or Shopify's numbers or whatever. I don't really trust the customer acquisition value. I don't really trust our margin costs, and just knowing that our product prices could change and all of a sudden those margins could decrease, and I just all this gets jumbled in my head, and I can't commit to be all right, if I pay $30 to acquire a customer or $100 to acquire a customer, pay it all day long, because I know that the math, the P&L is going to work out. And I think that's kind of my self-limiting, at least from a paid ad perspective.
Well, I think there's two different things there that you touched on, which is, are you trusting the numbers? And I think if you were able to trust the numbers, then how would you feel about knowing that user acquisition cost, a customer acquisition cost? And then, for me, if I knew that it was X, I would just, dump my entire bank account into that number all day long, as long as it maintained, because I know that where that sustainable number is.
Yeah, I think what happened is I was looking at the wrong metrics. I was looking at return on ad spend. Whereas what I should be looking at is how much am I spending on ads and how many new customers am I getting? And what does that cost, on average? So if I'm paying $100 to acquire a $50 customer, that math is never going to work out. So I have to make adjustments. Whereas I don't even think I've done that math before, I think it's just always been return on ad spend or percentage of our revenue or just the wrong metrics and having the wrong North Star. Yeah, you don't have the answer for that.
No, I'm just, for those listening, I just shrugged.
He's I don't do paid.
Well, we spend almost nothing on paid. Even when we, now, 2 years ago, we were getting, ROAS in the fucking teens, and that, dropped off a cliff. We did all the things everyone told us to do, and it still dropped. But part of that's tracking now. I do know that we get more customers than actually even Facebook is telling us, because we can put it in URLs and see where they're coming from. But the bigger thing that, you kind of touch on this piece of the psychology of it. I think there is this challenge of being a founder of a small business, especially that doesn't, you're part of your business plan is not raising funds. that you have to be able to sleep. You have to be confident and controlled when you're making the decisions. So part of it is managing your own psychology. And then part of that may be accepting, like knowing yourself and accepting that based on who I am and what type of business we are, maybe there are paths that you're not going to take that might be successful. As long as you find one that is working for you and your product and yourself, essentially, then I don't see any problem in, foregoing some potential growth, which would be at the expense of essentially your quality of life. Again, it depends on what game you're in. I mean, I know at Chisos, like we talk a lot about, we're in this phase of we've been systemizing for the past year and a half, and at the launch, so call it from like idea to product development to launch, and then the year one of being in business, I was a maniac. Like I woke up, not at the crack of dawn. I woke up at 8, started working. I turned the light off at 3 a.m, and the entire time was about Chisos. And in that time, it's like I didn't date, I didn't see friends, I didn't go on trips, I didn't do anything. And it was manic. And we were able to have this to build the business. And I know now, or at least maybe I don't know, I'm convinced, which may, again, this may be a fallacy, that if I stayed in that manic phase right now, we would be able to achieve more growth in the short term than if I build a calm business. But I'm attempting to build a calm business that can operate without someone having to be manic, and that can do this as a marathon. We did a period of sprinting, and now it's about longevity.
I love hearing this because I feel like you and I are building similar businesses. Beard Brain and Chisos.
I'm chasing you, man. I'm just chasing you.
You'll pass me, sure enough, after once I hit one of my psychological roadblocks. Because I think about things on terms of multi-generational as well. So it's like, I don't need to solve this problem in 3 years. Like I can take 30 years to solve it. I'm 40 years old, so hopefully I'll be working for another 30 years. And hopefully that work is enjoyable. Like that is the problem to solve. Like how to make sure that work is enjoyable for 30 years, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs can't handle that problem to solve.
One thing that just jumped into my head, by the way, and I agree with you, is for the listeners, I would love feedback on this episode, actually. If you can point out, you're like, hey, here's a fallacy that you're thinking, or here's another approach, like throw it in. I don't know if you guys do this. Throw it in Eric's comments.
No,
or email
Twitter. We got a pretty good Twitter following.
There
so you're
you
on
go.
Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
At Will Roman. It's easy.
Okay.
So yeah, throw it on Twitter. And what's yours, Eric Bandholz? I don't know. I just
Bandholz.
Bandholz. Oh, you got. Oh, wow.
Well, I'm the only Bandholz in the world.
Oh, okay.
I killed all my parents and my siblings. It's just like Hunger Games.
Yeah, I would love feedback, because one of the things that I actually had a discussion with my creative director this week about this, which is that in the past, I have done 0 to 1 multiple times. And I think that is where it's just natural. You got to know what you're good at, right? I think I came out of the womb being able to do 0 to 1. Like it's just a thing. I could break down walls. But then what happens is at that point, whether it's 0 to 1 of a startup or 0 to 1 inside another company, whatever I do gets turned over to people that manage it and grow it and scale it. And so I'm attempting to now do that with Chisos. And so I've fully recognized that I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. I'm fucking winging it. And so I'm sure I have blind spots a mile wide. So I'm open to hearing those, please.
Well, I don't have those answers too, because that's kind of like, I'm the same way. I can come up with an idea, create it, launch it, get it to where it runs on its own. But I get really bored, and I think the problem is like, how do you solve that boredom?
Well, I got an answer for that one.
Without creating problems that cause like an uncalm business,
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I guess I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I mean, I guess my approach to that though is that, we have a product development cycle. So I know that I like working on product development. I get to involve myself in the creative aspect of the videos that we make, which is interesting to me. And those are changing. And so, and part of what we do is I go, why don't we do this crazy idea? Why don't we go to a ranch and get like 5 gallons of gasoline, a bunch of tannerite, and blow up some cowboy boots and put it on film for the 4th of July? Like those events that you mentioned, like I love interacting with new people and hearing their stories. And so these events give me that opportunity. They allow me to give back to the community. Like part of, people throw lifestyle around like it's a dirty word, but from the beginning with Chisos, I looked at this as, how does this become something that integrates into my life with the things that I already like to do? So we do a team trip out to the Chisos Mountains that we're named after in West Texas every year. And so we're considering now doing like, basically glamping trips. And so part of me as a business is getting to go do the thing that I like to do, that we already do anyway. So it's variety, and maybe this is not answering your question, but I feel like you do the same thing. Like I see you bounce around Beard Brand, getting your creative juices flowing on a bunch of different projects.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it 10 years, which is longer than any other job.
That's a great point. Yeah,
I think I found ways to do it, and I feel like I tend to think of things as in terms of problems, and like in my inherent judgmental self, when I see somebody sell a business or think that the business can't grow anymore or that it's peaked, that's me saying you're no longer willing to solve problems for this business.
This would be fun. What if you were like, it's like a business swap. Like you should come be CEO of Chisos for a week, and then get at the end of it, and then like give me a list of, you're like, hey, dumbass, here's all the things that I would do if I were you. And they're probably things that my brain would never think of. I'd be like, oh yeah, it's a great idea. I mean, I know we do this by talking, but like really getting in the weeds might be an interesting thing.
I don't know. I feel like for certain type of people like us, I feel like ideas are not hard. Like we can come up with plenty of ideas.
I think you more than me, but yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, I can come up with things that are fun. I just don't know that they're like business optimization,
Yeah, I think I tend to think of things of like, how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to drive? Realistically, are we going to make money doing it or not? But my conservative airs on like low risk things. It's like the collaboration we did together. It was like, we throw a couple products together, we do a giveaway. Not a lot of cost. I don't know. Did it drive anything?
That did, actually.
Oh, there you go.
No, that was good for us. Yeah, we had several thousand, and we got some good conversions. That's the word I'm looking for.
No, customers. You got customers.
Yeah,
man.
I got customers out of
new
it.
relationships. So Beard Brand customers tend to be pretty rad people. So
they are. You sent a few my way.
Yeah.
They're great.
Well, so I kind of want to segue into that, like the experience of customers. Like I feel like by our communication style, by the videos we produce, our customers tend to be just like laid back, chill, handsome as fuck, man. Like you look at someone who's good looking, you go to the barbershop and you see them and like everyone is just like dope looking. And I feel like to a certain degree, maybe we're not responsible for that, but we've curated those type of people. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes I feel like, you probably know this better than me, is just like setting that expectations between that relationship of customer and brand.
Yeah. This is something we're learning right now. So we're very customer focused in the sense that like we go above and beyond. If someone has an issue that's really not related to the product or even our service, we'll still find a solution for them. And we pride ourselves on that. And again, most of our customers are amazing, 99.9%. What we're finding is as you get big enough, there are going to be people who abuse that. And so it's very much like in-person relationships or other relationships, which is you have to learn to set boundaries. And, I resist becoming I hate it with a big company where it's like, oh, it's against our policy. Mm-hmm. But now this is part of maturing. I'm like, oh, I understand that now, right? So, for instance, we've started identifying, like, we'll have a certain type of customer and they will be extremely particular, and then we'll make an exception and we'll like change something. And then, and with us, we're shipping something that's very heavy. So shipping costs are a lot and we eat them. And so then by the time someone has done like 3-4 exchanges for certain types of things that they may have misapplied the product to begin with, you have to learn how to politely, and I guess with kindness, set up that boundary.
Yeah.
We had our first, scam, like where someone bought the product, shipped it to an address, and in Shopify, it was like, oh, this one looks maybe shady, but maybe not. We're like, send it anyway, like we always do.
Yeah.
And within like 2 hours of the delivery receipt, they had filed a claim like it didn't show up. And so we had proof of delivery. And so we called them And we emailed them and we texted them and they wouldn't respond. And every other customer, we've had things that didn't get delivered, and they would show up, and every once in a while we have one where we really believe in the customer. And so we always the first thing we do is, hey, we'll send you a replacement. But this person, they didn't want a replacement, and they wouldn't talk to us. They would only go through the agency. And then we ended up getting photos of like proof of the thing was there, but the agency that they filed the complaint through like just wouldn't listen to us. And so it was this kind of thing of like, it's like the first time when you're like, a kid and someone really does you wrong, and you're like, oh man, like not everybody in the world is really good.
Yeah. I had nightmares about that.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Early in Beard Brand, there were like these 5 Malaysian orders that came in. They were all like $200 or something. And of course, being the naive, trusting person that I am, like we sent them out there, and then, I thought they were good. The month goes by, and like when your business isn't doing a lot of sales like that, that's a big deal. And then, of course, like later the chargebacks start coming in. And I had a dream that I was like in Malaysia hunting down these scam artists. And I saw my products on like some weird street fair, like in some Malaysian market. And I was like, man.
Oh, that's funny.
That's how ingrained like the start of the business was for me.
Yeah,
it was
100%.
It was like you said, that manic phase, like from the day we launched or even before we launched until probably like 11 months in, probably like 18 to 24 months in was like, I remember there's like, I didn't check sales for this hour. And it was like,
right. Yes, constantly.
Nonstop. And I was like, oh yeah, my daughter just turned 2. It's like, I forgot about the first 2 years.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that 100%. And one of the things that happened to me is I've got a bad back anyway, which is part of the genesis for Chisos, but it really exacerbated my physical condition because, again, I was putting all my focus and energy on this one thing. And so this going back to this idea of like, how do you build for the marathon? You just made me think this is maybe off topic, but I've recently been reading literature about chronotypes. And so like you're instantly going to like know what this means. It's like some people are morning people and some people are evening people. And I'm not a morning person, but I always kind of berated myself for that fact, and you should get up early and you're more productive and people like that are more successful, blah, 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 blah. And essentially what I'm learning, this is starting on a path of, because my body got so wrecked, I was like, I got to get this back into a healthy place. And one of them is that these chronotypes are actually real. They're in your DNA. And what happens is from about age 20 to about age 60 is when people are a particular type. Having kids can change things because of hormones and your just needs and practicality. But in general, you still stick to these patterns. And it affects things like when your melatonin fades and starts, when your, what's the stress hormone? Cortisol naturally increases or not, when your body temperature changes. And so, like, for instance, we're recording this at noon, and in the past I would have been like, no, let's do like 9 a.m. And if I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, I'm not really awake till about 11:30.
Yeah. And
it just doesn't matter what time I get up. And I've always felt foggy, and I try and put chemicals and caffeine and everything to try and get over it. But what I've learned is that, oh no, this is the way my body operates. And similarly, I get a boost at about 10 o'clock at night, which is why I can work from like 10 p.m. till 1 or 2 in the morning, and I naturally fall asleep. And I'm actually really sharp at that time. Yeah. And so part of what, this going back to the original conversation, I feel like the thread here is longevity, right? So whether you need to stay interested or stay healthy or get over your mental blocks, you've got to be aware of what are the resources that you're working with, which includes your own physiology and your own psychology, and how can you optimize those? And that will probably be different than somebody, your neighbor, who has got different set of variables.
Yeah. Like I think I hit my flow like legitimately at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I believe it.
When I'm like supposed to go home. And then like to me, I battle because like one of my commitments a couple quarters ago was like, I want to be home by 5:15.
Okay.
Like all the time to.
Hey, you told me about that actually.
Yeah. So I'm like frustrated because I'm like finally hitting this flow and accomplishing things and checking stuff off my list. And then I'm like, I gotta go home. Like, and it's.
Well, how are you dealing with that?
I'm just not as productive. Like, I guess my solution to it is like not be.
Well, why is the 5:15 at home the thing, and could that be shifted to another time block?
I mean, like, because my kids go to bed at 7, you know, like, so
Oh, they
you want
go
to
to bed
have
early
like,
still.
yeah, you know, or 8 o'clock, and you want to have family dinner. Like, I feel like family dinner is
Super
pretty
important.
And then I've been lifting in the afternoon sometimes. So it's just kind of like societal structure. It's hard to break a lot of those things when you have other commitments, when you're not truly free in terms of like families and.
It's
different
true.
things.
Yeah, I mean, this is the balance. Life is a balancing act.
So I think
But I
what,
feel for you.
yeah. Well, I'm just bitching to the ether, you know. So I think the way I'm trying to solve it is by hiring people to do the things that require work to be done. You know, like ultimately, I shouldn't have any kind of task to do. It should be strategic. Should be conversations that I could have at any kind of time in the day, and then you know the execution is done by my team.
Well, I mean, I've actually learned about these conversations thing is that I'm starting to shift the times that I have those. Like, for instance, like this conversation, it's just a conversation. But if we had it in the morning or we had it at, you know, when I lag in the afternoon before I get my evening kick, like it wouldn't probably be worse than it is right now.
No, I think it's pretty good. You know, like if you listen to this show a lot, you know that I'm a big fan of bootstrapping. I'm a big fan of like the journey is a way. I don't think it's a thing that most entrepreneurs hear. I don't think it's something that's shared enough. And maybe you hear it all the time on this podcast if you're a regular listener. But I feel like the guests I tend to bring on are like bootstrap people. I'm not really drawn. Like I had a guest on who went the whole like VC route, and he had a good saying. He was like, once you pop, you can't stop. It's like once you take that money, like you're on that train. There's no going back. And it's not your train anymore.
Yeah,
you
with
know?
few exceptions, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know how to make it your train. You know, like where you're in control and you're just Elon Musk using other people's money. And I guess you just have to be a badass.
Well, I mean, you know, people make things work.
Yeah. I kind of want to circle everything back to the beginning of the conversation, which was the events in the community. Do you see tangible evidence of growth from these activities? Is this something you would recommend to other e-commerce brands?
Yes. So I would recommend it on maybe 3 different levels, which is the first one is what I already mentioned, which is just fulfillment and value to your life. I mean, I think it's awesome and it's fun. And I've been to beard brand events, you know, here in the backyard. And those are what, to me, like integrate the business into your life. You know, that's what makes it real. The second one would be awareness. You know, so people come to our events. Like there's a bakery, man, I feel like it's like Paperboy Bakery or something in Austin. I want to give them a shout out, but I forgot their name. They're amazing. And I discovered them. And the guy I was like, oh, I'm a small business owner. He's like, which one? I was like, Chisos. He's like, I know Chisos Boots. I love them, right? Oh, you guys had this awesome party, you know? So there's just an awareness that comes from it, which to me is really valuable in the community. But then the third one is actually sales. And so that, you know, you're top of mind, it's part of the brand building, right? So this is the big thing I've discovered about myself, actually, is a whole other conversation, a whole other podcast. The next podcast is that I'm not a marketer. I'm a brand guy. I've learned this. And so this is a brand play. It builds these feelings of attachment and warmth to Chisos. But the thing is like when we do these events, and we have 2 major events every year. For the listeners, so the way we structure it is we have a big event for Memorial Day. We raise money for the Texas Military Forces Museum. And then we have a big event in November, which is our anniversary party, and we raise money for land conservation. And in between, we have small things like happy hours and that kind of stuff. The anniversary concert, without fail, is our best sales day of the year. Best sales day. And it's a combination of in-person at the store and online.
Really? Online too?
Both. We get a boost on both.
Do you do like an email blast, or is it just kind of...
Yeah. So we lead up to it, and we have like fairly like...
Because you're not doing sales, are you?
What do you mean we're not doing sales?
Discounting your product.
No. We're not doing discounts. And we charge for the events, by the way. So the big events you have to pay for. We have big bands that come in, you know, big Austin and Texas bands. It's a fairly substantial production. But the people that come just mob the store while they're here. And then people who are not here, we're constantly posting videos and pictures and involving them as much as possible. And it's also November. So it's, you know, it's our high season anyway, but it gives people this attachment to being a part of this run up. And, you know, they know we're a small business and we, you know, I'm still the face of the brand. And so we kind of keeping people up to, oh, we've had this many today. We've had this many. And there's a lot of excitement around it.
Yeah. Chief Texan.
Yes, sir.
where can people support you? Where can they buy some of the world's most comfortable cowboy boots?
Chisos.com. That's the easiest. That's where you can get everything. Social medias is Chisos, or sometimes Chisos. I guess Twitter's Chisos Boots. Instagram is Chisos. And you can give us a phone call. We still answer our phones.
Oh, really? Any time of the day? 24 hours?
You can call 24 hours. We won't answer 24 hours. But I think 10 a.m., 9:30 a.m. till 6 p.m., we're answering those phones.
Central time.
Central time, yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Well, this has been another great e-commerce conversations. Hope you guys have a nugget or two. Or if you don't have any nuggets, that you reach out to Will and give him some advice.
I'm Will Roman on Twitter. Let me know. Let me know.
Tell
where
him
I'm
everything
wrong.
he's wrong. Everything that's wrong with him based on this conversation.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Cheers. And keep on growing.
Thanks, y'all.